Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavava Girivaradari Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajacharya Astotra Shata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangulam Gayate Girim Yatkripatamahamam Bande Shri Gurundinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Om Jnanatimarandasya Ananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Ramukha Swami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pachare Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pasyata Deshatare. Reading this morning from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summum Bonum, Chapter 68, verse 53 and 54. We'll recite verse 53 together, and I'll chant verse 54. Tata pravishta swapuram halayuda sametya bandhun anurakta chetesha Sashamsa sarvam yadu pungavanam madhye sabhayam kurusvachasistam tata pravishta swapuram halayuda sametya bandhu anurakta chetasa Sashamsa sarvam yadu pangavanam madhye sambhayam kurushu swachichistitam Tata pravishta swapuram halayuda sametya bandhun anurakta chetasa Sashamsa sarvam yadu pangavanam madhye sabhyayam kurushu swachatistam. Please chant. Tata, then, Pravishtaha, having entered, Swa, his, Puram, city, Hala, Ayudaha, Lord Balaram, who has a plow weapon, Sametya, meeting, Bandhun, his relatives, Anurakta, attached to him, Chetasaha, whose hearts, Shashamsa, he related, Sarvam, everything, Yadu, Pungavanam, of the leaders of the Yadus, Madhye, in the midst, Sambayam, of the assembly, Kurushu, among the Kurus, Swa, his own, Chechis, Chestitam, action. Translation by the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Then Lord Halayuda entered his city, Dwarka, and met his relatives, whose hearts were all bound to him in loving attachment. In the assembly hall, he reported to the Yadu leaders everything about his dealings with the Kurus. Text 54. Adyapi cha puram hyati suchayad ramavikramam samyunatam dakshinato gangayam anuyadrishyate. Translation. Even today, the city of Hastinapur is visibly elevated on the southern side along the Ganges, thus showing the signs of Lord Balaram's prowess. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada writes as follows: for the most part, it was the practice of the Kshatriya kings to inaugurate some kind of fighting between the parties of the bride and bridegroom before the marriage. When Samba forcibly took away Lakshmana, the elderly members of the Kuru dynasty were pleased to see that he was actually a suitable match for her. In order to see his personal strength, however, they fought with him, and without any respect for regulations of fighting, they all arrested him. When the Yadu dynasty decided to release Samba from the confinement of the Kurus, Lord Balaram came personally to settle the matter, and as a powerful Kshatriya, he ordered them to free Samba immediately. The Kauravas became superficially insulted by this order, so they challenged Lord Balaram's power. They simply wanted to see him exhibit his inconceivable strength. Thus, with great pleasure, they handed over their daughter to Samba, and the whole matter was settled. Duryodhana, being affectionate towards his daughter Lakshmana, had her married to Samba in great pomp. Balaram was very satisfied after his reception from the Kurus, and accompanied by the newly married couple, he started toward his city of Dwarka. Lord Balaram triumphantly reached Dwarka, where he met with many citizens who were all his devotees and friends. When they all assembled, Lord Balaram narrated the whole story of the marriage, and they were astonished to hear how Balaram had made the city of Hastinapur tremble. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 68th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Marriage of Samba. The servants of Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, Hare Krishna. Good morning. It's always nice to start off the morning tongue-tied. Every third word. So this will be fun. We'll see if that goes away. So it's interesting to note this is again and again expressed by Srila Prabhupada that during these pastimes, during these leelas, a lot of what goes on is to see the strength of Krishna, to see the strength of Balaram. And that's in this final purport, the way Prabhupada summarizes everything. They simply wanted to see him exhibit his inconceivable strength. And then after that, thus they, with great pleasure, handed over their daughter. So it's all Leela. It's all pastime. It's fun to hear about. It's nice to hear about. And it gives us some context to the power of Krishna and Balaram. Which brings an interesting question. Srila Prabhupada, I believe this was during the opening of Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan. And they said, Prabhupada, who's more powerful, Krishna or Balaram? And when we see them in Vrindavan, we know that Balaram's the elder brother. Usually the elder brother is a little bit stronger. But we notice that the deities, Balaram is leaning on the shoulder of Krishna. Prabhupada said this much. He said that Krishna is more powerful than Balaram because he's holding up Balaram. So this is a nice little story. The verse we chanted together, verse 53, refers to Lord Balaram as Halayuda. So for the Sanskrit pundits, you'll already know this. Hala is the plow. So the word Halayuda means one whose weapon is the plow. This is a significant thing for us. And there's a connection. The last class I gave, I was talking a lot about how Balaram is Adi Guru. And Guru carries a plow. And Guru uses the plow on us. Kadamba Kanana Swami has a nice little excerpt on this. He says he is plowing the fields of our hearts, and in that way preparing the heart so that the seeds of bhakti can be planted. It is through service, attitude, that the heart is prepared. By following in the footsteps of Balaram in the mood of service, one becomes eligible to receive the mercy of Krishna. Which is, one could say, one of the reasons why Balaram has a plow. And is Adi Guru, or the original spiritual master, Balaram's giving us a way to approach Krishna. And Hanuman Preshak Swami on a class on this verse was noting that we don't approach God directly. It's too dangerous, he says. So we're given God's representative so that we can make that approach in a more safe fashion. And Lord Balaram so mercifully prepares us, cultivates our hearts, so that we can be, through the proper means, we can approach Krishna. Quoting from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Gaur Govinda Swami continues the sentiments, or the notes of Kadambakanana Swami. He says, rules and regulations are needed at the beginning. That is sadhana bhakti. Therefore, we have two paths, sadhana bhakti and raganuga bhakti. Therefore, Balaram's plow and Krishna's flute. Balaram has a plow in his hands, and Krishna has a flute in his hands. Why? Balaram will cultivate. Sadhana bhakti is cultivation. The cultivated field is the heart. After being properly cultivated by sadhana bhakti, then comes karshana. You'll come to raga bhakti. Then Krishna's flute will attract you, akarshana. Karshana and akarshana are the activities of Krishna Balaram. Love will be produced if properly cultivated. Guru sows the seed of the bhakti creeper, but your land is barren. Then it will never sprout. Gopinath Acharya said to his brother-in-law Sarvabhauma, I am just sowing seeds in a barren land. How will it sprout, germinate? If Mahaprabhu showers mercy, then it will happen. So, by the mercy of our gurus, we're being cultivated. And if anyone has any agricultural experience, when you first get to a field that hasn't been prepared and hasn't been seeded and planted, especially if it's fresh ground that's never been farmed on, it's very hard. And plants don't grow very well in hard soil, especially clay. It's like the table, rock solid. So you can put seeds down, but you're just going to be feeding birds. It's not very useful. So you have to do some preparation. You have to loosen things up a little bit so that the seeds can get where they need to go, which is in the ground. And then even once they're in the ground, if they're surrounded by hard soil, then the roots can't grow out. And if the roots can't grow, then the plant can't grow. And it'll be, at best, stunted and kind of wimpy and lame and small, and you're not going to get any fruits out of it. And at the worst, it's just not going to grow at all. So some preparation has to be done. And this is why listening to the Guru, following the orders of the Guru, is so important. Because Guru is giving the preparatory work. Unlike a field, we are able to work on ourselves. You're never going to see dirt kind of moving itself around. It has to have an external force, but we're animate beings, so we can work on ourselves if we have the intelligence, and then we can become Krishna conscious. But Prabhupada says first we have to become conscious, then we can become Krishna consciousness. So we're very fortunate to have access to this mercy. Otherwise, we just remain in whatever condition we were previously. We can still do that if we choose, by not following the orders of the Guru, not doing the things that we need to do, that we're supposed to do, to reconnect with Krishna. And it's really easy to understand when we read this Srimad Bhagavatam. It kind of lays it all out for us, not just once, not just twice, but multiple times, over and over again. It gives different methods and different practices for different people, because we're all different, So different preparation is required. You're not going to prepare for corn the same way you prepare for rice. In the end, you're trying to do the same thing, but there's different ways of going about it. And as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we have our way that we follow. The nice folks across the street as Catholics have their way that we follow. And we're both trying to do the same thing. But there are some variances due to time, place, circumstance, constitution, etc. So it's important that we prepare ourselves in the proper way. So what is the proper way? Same thing I talked about last week, or whenever I gave my last class. Hearing, chanting, 16 rounds, 4 regulative principles, following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. It's very simple stuff, which is, personally, it's good for me. I'm a pretty simple person. I get kind of easily confused. So when everything's cut and dry, it's hard to cross signals. So when we want to do something, we have to learn from a teacher. I would strongly recommend against going to a self-taught surgeon. It may or may not work out, but I wouldn't want to roll the dice. I had just a more mundane example. I mean, I went to the chief plastic surgeon of a hospital, and he still mildly botched the surgery. I mean, it looks very nice aesthetically, but there was there's a lot of complications. So, we have to, when we approach somebody for a mundane thing, we have to realize, okay, these people are fallible. This is, the top doctor in the hospital, and he still made a mistake. It caused really great difficulties. But we're very fortunate when we are listening to Guru, because Guru is the representative of Krishna. Guru is the representative of Lord Balaram. These two people don't make mistakes. We might make mistakes, but Krishna doesn't make mistakes. So when we're tuned into the Guru, and the Guru is tuned into Krishna and Balaram, there's no mistakes in that either. So the process of surrendering means we have to surrender. What does that mean? It means we have to become a servant. We have to do as we're told. We can't just say, oh, okay, I'm your disciple now. I'll surrender to you, but I'm going to keep doing whatever it is I want to do because, I'm pretty intelligent. I think I know it's going. It doesn't work. You can try it. It doesn't work. It's pretty useless to say one thing and do the other. So we have to surrender. And that means we become the menial servant of the Guru. So menial service doesn't necessarily mean we're like sweeping and mopping and things like this. It's nice, but not necessarily for everyone either. So we're very fortunate in Krishna consciousness that we can be engaged according to our propensities. So one person has a propensity for cleaning, then they should probably clean something. Another person has a propensity for cooking, and they can be engaged in cooking nice food stuff for Krishna. And that's one of the ways that we begin to get cultivated, is taking our material propensities and making them for Krishna. And when we do that, Prabhupada said that is Krishna consciousness, engaging all of our actions and our senses for Krishna, always thinking of Krishna and doing everything. And there's some things that we do that are comfortable, like our propensities. You know, if I like to sew, then I'm going to enjoy sewing nice outfits for the deity. But there's other things that may or may not align with our propensities, our tendencies, our sensibilities that we still have to do. Because, unfortunately, in this material world, not everything is flower garlands and happiness. We have some unsavoriness to us, and usually to root out the unsavoriness, we have to do something that's a little uncomfortable. So, depending on our constitution, that can be different for everybody. But these things are there. And one of the most important things that Srila Prabhupada gave us, aside from the absolute baseline of 4 regs and 16 rounds, this is kind of our prerequisite to becoming conscious. 16 rounds and 4 regs. I very often say that nothing intelligent can come from my mouth before I chant 16 rounds. And I say that with pretty great certainty. But that doesn't mean after I chant my 16 rounds that everything I say is perfect and wonderful and intelligent. I'm still perfectly capable of saying unintelligent things after my 16th round. It's up to me to, engage my intelligence and think before I speak, which I'm not terribly good at. And it's also mercy of Krishna to allow me to speak nicely if he so chooses. So back to these uncomfortable parts of this process of becoming Krishna conscious. So once we're conscious, we should start to engage in activities that are Krishna conscious. And one of the biggest ones that Prabhupada gave, and I'm going to make this very apparent, just so you're forewarned what's coming next. One of the most important things that Srila Prabhupada gave is distributing books. This temple, decades ago, was the #1 book distribution temple in the world. This was when O'Hare Airport was also the #1 airport in the world, and now we've been passed in that regard. Interestingly enough, I think at least the #1 temple in North America is Krishna Life, which is in the Atlanta area. And the busiest airport in the world is also in Atlanta. But I don't think that there's a correlation because as far as I know, they don't do airport books anymore. But, as they say, correlation isn't causation, but it's interesting to observe. So, the Christmas marathon ended on Sunday. Does anyone know what the official name of the Christmas marathon is? The Prabhupada Marathon. That was decided in 1985. One of my talents is having facts that don't really do any good. So that's one of the facts. 1985, there's a GBC resolution to call the Christmas Marathon the Prabhupada Marathon. That usually runs from November 24th to December 24th. Gets kind of wrapped in with the Gita Jayanti Marathon. They kind of go hand in hand. And it's interesting when we really engage in the Prabhupada Marathon. It's kind of playing into, but it's also the exact opposite of what's going on in the pre-Christmas season, because everything's so inflated by consumerism and I got to get this deal, and I got to go here and buy all of this junk for all of these people, and I got to spend money, and I got to get all the good gifts, and this, that, and the other. It's really mode of passion, just running around. Where's this? Where's that? Oh, yeah, this is 5% cheaper over there, so I'm gotta go run over here and get this. And people, I mean, really, it's kind of fun, you know. You get a good rush out of that type of thing, but it's not necessarily a human level of consciousness either, you know. You scatter a bunch of various types of food stuff around a dog, and they have the same reaction. They're just kind of running around and they're really excited. They're really going, and they gotta go over here, and then they gotta go over here, and bouncing all around. So it's an animal level consciousness to engage in this consumerism. We're trying to have human consciousness, hopefully. So now, Christmas was yesterday. Those of us that participated, now we can enter the recovery from the gross consumerism. Start trying to wind the mind down and recenter. I kind of dabbled in that a little bit yesterday. Went and visited family. All the kids came over. Between my two cousins, they have like 7 kids or something. And it's 7 children between the ages of 3 and 12. It's a lot. So they come, and it's a cacophony of sound and energy, and wrapping papers going everywhere, and they're screaming and hollering, "Oh my God, I got a truck! I have 2 trucks now!" Ah! All of that, and I try to be a little more relaxed. Man, that energy is really confronting. You forget that when you're not around kids a lot. You forget just how much energy they have. And you start to, oh man, if I had that energy. Well, if I had that energy, I'd probably waste it. But man, if I had that energy, I have the potential to do a lot more service. But it was nice being everyone's happy to see me. I just spent a year in Texas, which means I didn't really get to see family a lot. So they're all really happy, and it was nice. But boy, it was really nice getting back to the ashram and having just that stillness, and having that ability to not be distracted by all of the shiny, glittery, fancy things in the material world. And there was, all of this, like, oh, she didn't really like this, or he didn't like that gift. Oh, they liked this. They said this is the best gift ever. And, so-and-so's kid, they opened this present. They hated it at first, and then they took it out and played with it, and they said it was the best gift they ever got. And in 1976, this is different time in the world in Krishna consciousness. So devotees were going out every day doing books, and this time of the year they were dressing like Santa Claus. And there's some really wonderful stories. If you ask the devotees from that era, they've got some great stories of all the different little things and gimmicks and silly stuff they used to do to try to elicit interest, get a donation, give a book, etc. It was causing quite the stir with the rest of the world, though. So news stations, their nature is to kind of poke around and see if they can't find fault with someone or something. So they interviewed the Salvation Army. They interviewed some random people on the street. No real qualification to say whether it's good or bad. Then they interviewed the devotees. And at the time, young Romapad Das Brahmachari was in charge of public relations for the Brooklyn Temple. So they stuck a mic in his face and were asking him questions. And true to Prabhupada Swami's style, he said, in summary, the most impactful thing that he said, besides kind of deflecting the nonsensical things that they hurled at him, what better gift can one give than love of God? So there's all of these, material gifts that we can give. There's even gifts, I got a couple things that aren't necessarily for my enjoyment, but to help me in Krishna consciousness. I got a whole store displays worth of Fisherman's Friend throat lozenges, so I can be a little less crude when I talk and sing. Although it's not working well for me today for some reason. But really the best gift we can give somebody is love of God. How do we do that? We give them Prabhupada's books. It's very, very simple. And we don't have to really struggle that much to do it either. I'm not going to be asking everybody, all right, quit your jobs, let's go on book distribution. Because that's not required. It'd be nice, but we don't have to do that. We can do it, however, in very convenient ways, especially nowadays. There's so many avenues for book distribution. I know people that only distribute books online through like Etsy shops, Facebook Marketplace, and things like that. And there's little libraries all around the place. So if you're cruising around, your neighborhood or work or whatever, and you see one, you can put some of Prabhupada's books in it. They don't even have to be new or a specific book. One thing that we were doing in Houston is they have one of these libraries next to the Govindas, and we would get miscellaneous parts and pieces of the Bhagavatam. And so we'd put like a 6.2 in there, or a 10.3, or whatever we had. And people take it and they read it and they get interested, even if they don't understand it. Any point at which you enter into hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam is interesting and captivating in its own way. And then they get interested and they come to the Sunday feast and they get more books, and then they realize, oh man, that book I got, there's a lot more books. Oh, I don't know if I can read all that. It's the little things that we can do. It doesn't take a lot of effort. And I'm not talking down at all, because going from full-time book distribution to being here, my service has changed, and my capacity to do books is a little different now. But even just what I do by setting up a table of books in the lobby, books go out almost every single day. Somebody takes a book, and the way it maths out, it's at least one book a day, which is pretty good considering the people coming here are usually already familiar. And it's interesting too, because I've seen people take books that when I talk to them and I try to persuade them to take a book, they're not interested. But when you just leave people alone, sometimes then they become interested. And other people walk past it all day long until you say, hey, have you read this book? No, it's what's it about? Oh, it's about a lot of things. So it doesn't have to be active. Everybody goes out on Sankirtan for 6 to 8 hours a day. It would be really nice, but it's not the only way. We can all engage in more passive or active forms of book distribution as we find necessary and convenient and doable in our circumstances. So one thing I've noticed is that ISKCON operates on two things. They coincide really well. It's festivals and marathons. There's always a festival coming up or a marathon going on. So our next book marathon is for Gauraparni of distributing CCs. So we can kind of start getting in the mood, start rereading CC, so that we can nicely distribute them when the time comes to focus on distributing them, and then we can distribute a lot of CCs and say, yes, we did something very nice for Prabhupada. And one thing that I've also seen in this matter is Back to Godhead magazines. When's the last time anyone saw a Back to Godhead magazine that's not 10 years old? And anyone in the last 6 months seen a recent Back to Godhead magazine? No? So they do exist. They come out regularly. They're still producing these. And it's something Prabhupada mentioned, Back to Godhead, so many times. It was such a personal endeavor in the beginning for him to print it. And in New York, he turned it over to his disciples, and we've been going ever since, despite its kind of background level right now. Prabhupada to Jayadvaita Swami said, "These books and magazines are our most important propaganda to defeat the ignorance of Maya's army." So I mentioned Back to Godhead because it is an incredibly rare thing. But it's also incredibly easy to sign up. There's a link. It's $20 for the whole year, which is a very insignificant number considering the price of groceries nowadays. So this is my shtick, trying to get everybody to subscribe to Back to Godheads this afternoon for the upcoming year. So this would be nice. I have so many quotes about how important book distribution is to Srila Prabhupada. The time is getting a little more thin than I thought it would, which is a happy problem. So I'll save you the repeated browbeating and then fasting. And we'll just wrap the whole tirade up here. With one nice quote. Book distribution releases the suffering of others, and Krishna becomes very pleased with his devotees when he sees them exercising their compassion and mercy. So this is kind of how I started, right? Eventually, if I talk enough, I'll loop back to where I began and put a nice little bow on things. So by doing what Guru asks us to do, then Guru becomes pleased. Then we get the mercy. Then the heart becomes cultivated, the seed gets planted, and the shower of mercy comes and waters the seed. And we're currently immersed in the 10th canto. A lot of what goes on in the 10th canto is fighting and killing of demons and dragging of cities into the Ganges, all of these wonderful, fantastic things. And it's nice to hear, these pastimes are eternally relishable. And it's also important to know we live in a slightly different age now. So it can be, I know for myself, it's almost, at first it was like kind of made me nervous. Like, oh, we're killing demons. I'm a little bit demoniac myself. Maybe I should, it's concerning. But Mahaprabhu didn't bring weapons when he came. Balaram didn't necessarily bring weapons either. There is a pastime though where Mahaprabhu manifests himself as Balaram with the plow, but it's another story for another class. The weapon that Mahaprabhu uses to root out all of the bad and unsavory qualities in us today is the holy name. And it's a much different mood than in Krishna Lila. In the Adi Lila, Mahaprabhu says, I'm the only gardener. If I don't distribute these fruits, what shall I do with them? How many fruits can I eat alone? Distribute this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Let people eat these fruits and ultimately become free from old age and death. If the fruits are distributed all over the world, my reputation as a pious man will be known everywhere, and thus people will glorify my name with great pleasure. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. By his work, thoughts, and words, an intelligent man must perform actions which will be beneficial for all living entities in this life and the next. So, in this connection, to wrap up the farming analogy, when we have our hearts cultivated by Lord Balaram, by Lord Nityananda, then the seed is planted by Krishna. And then Krishna comes and waters the seed. And that seed is Bhakti Lata Bij. And slowly Bhakti Lata Bij begins to grow as we water it. And this is also what these activities, these Principle 16 rounds, 4 regs, the book distribution, engaging all the time in Krishna conscious activities, that's there to foster this little delicate plant growing within our hearts. It's the kind of thing that if we don't protect it, it's described in, both Nectar of Devotion and Madhurya Kadambini, the kind of threats that are faced. So many other unscrupulous vines come and crowd out the necessary items for growth, crowds out the sunlight and the water, and then our Bhakti Lata Bij suffers. But by following these regulations, engaging in these activities, then we're weeding the garden of the heart. It's much better than the current farming methods where we rip up the ground, throw all of the same crop in there, and then anything else that comes up gets blasted with chemicals. It's much better to just nicely foster and root out the weeds gently by hand, and we're not causing some great disturbance and filling our bodies with pesticides and all of these things. So, Balaram is ready. He's got his plow in his hand. He's always got the plow in his hand. He's ready to cultivate our hearts. But we have to be willing as well. This whole process doesn't take place against our own will. Krishna is very merciful that he manifests this whole material creation so that we can do all kinds of silliness. But he's not going to come and force us to stop doing those things. It has to be of our own accord. And even once we start heading in that direction, Krishna gives us so much benediction. Balaram gives us so much benediction. Always willing to help us, and they always are helping us. They're giving so much more mercy than we're deserving of. But we have to continue to do the legwork. Because if we don't continue to engage, then the cultivation process ceases. Once the process ceases, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that there's no loss or diminution. But who wants to be stuck at 20%, whatever the number is? It's not desirable, at least for me. I know when I'm downloading something, the most painful thing I can do is watch the number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30, 40, 45, 46, 47. Then the internet shuts off. stops. And then I lament, and I'm miserable, and anxiety, and the internet going to come back down. I just want to download this one thing. It's a very uncomfortable condition. So as long as we're plugged into the router through Srila Prabhupada, and we're doing the things we need to do, like not switching into airplane mode, then eventually we download bhakti, we download Krishna consciousness. But it very much relies on our own engagement, our own willingness to engage and actively participate. It's a thing you hear a lot in 12-step recoveries. You have to actively participate in your own recovery because nobody else can do it for you. So we can also say the same thing. You have to actively participate in your Krishna consciousness because nobody can do it for you. Yes, there's so much mercy involved. And it's our minute effort combined with mercy that gets us where we want to go. But it starts with our minute effort. Then the mercy comes. So with that, I will conclude my ramblings for the morning. I'll open it up for any questions, comments, chastisements, or concerns. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I bewildered everybody. All of the words stumbling out of my mouth. You look pensive, people. Are you thinking about the class or breakfast? Nobody has anything, I won't hold you hostage. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.